So what I want you to think about today is to think strategy over tactics. Okay? The problem with talking about tactics in regard to social media is that the landscape is always changing. Okay? These companies are always changing the what you can do through their service and how effective some of those tactics are. So I could spend a whole lot of time giving you, this works this week on social media, and next week it may not be the thing that moves you up in the rankings. Okay, so we're going to start to think strategy. So here's the central core of the strategy. Figure out what you want to do as a job. Then find somebody who's been there and got there, right? And ask them how they did it. Yes. Sorry? Yeah, do information interviews. Julie's kind of giving me the wave here for information interviews. We do have the GSA does offer a workshop on how to conduct yourself in an information interview, how to schedule and plan those kinds of interviews. So that's a valuable resource that's available through the GSA, and I would highly recommend that you attend that workshop when it's available. So again, this is how we're going to find this out. So the role of social media, you should be thinking of social media as a place to help you keep track and maintain your connections. Social media is a complement to networking, not a substitute for networking. Okay, that's an important distinction. You're not going to be able to sit behind your screen and make all the connections you want to have a fabulous career. You actually need to go out and meet people and then use that personal connection as an avenue for expanding your online network. Okay. So here's a basic plan. Step one is present a good image. Okay. So that means cleaning up the profiles you already have. We can talk about how to do that in a moment. Removing embarrassing photographs. Okay, so the pictures of you at the kegger on the weekend or whatever, remove those. Remove negative posts. Okay, so remember the ones that were discriminatory or had bad grammar or were revealing confidential information about a previous employer, those kinds of things. Remove all of those and do it long before you plan on developing your social media networks and looking for a job, right? I mean, the first thing that employers are now doing when they see a resume or they make contact with you in the job market is researching you online to see what you're all about. And that you don't want them finding stuff if there's old things in your social media profiles. You want that all cleaned up by that time. You want to make sure you adjust the privacy settings to control what friends can show. Facebook allows you to not completely stop your friends from tagging you in photographs, but that you can severely limit what your friends can post of your material on their profiles. And I encourage you to do that just so you have control over what's being shown online as much as possible. You need to remember, though, that anything that's online can potentially get out into the wild, right? Out beyond your profile, and there is very little you can do about it once it's reached that stage. Yeah.
I know it's not with that, but with YouTube, there's a video of me from Deutsche Welle going to the Berlin Wall,
right? And
I've been tracking it since there are now 30 different direct, indirect, independent links to that one video.
Yeah, it's amazing how stuff can take on a life of its own if it gets beyond your control. So you just want to be careful. You want to use lists so that controls how the posts that are put on your page, on your newsfeed, appear in your profile. Okay, so you want to know. So, for instance, if you have that friend who's always getting themselves into trouble, is always doing something embarrassing and you don't want their stuff to appear on your profile, put them in a separate list and kind of crank up the settings so that that person isn't going to be displayed on your news feed, right? And make sure you check your spelling and grammar. I'm sorry, I'm an English department PhD. I have to talk about spelling and grammar. It's kind of, I'd have to turn in my union card if I don't. And don't swear, right? And use a photo that clearly shows your face. This is something that's relatively new. It used to be that when people recommended what to send to a recruiter, they said, do not include a photograph, right? If you're sending a resume out, don't put your photograph on your resume. And the thought was that that could potentially open you up to discrimination based on gender or race or whatever the recipient of that photograph decided to use as a criteria for discrimination. Now with social media profiles, you look like you're hiding something if you don't have a photograph on your profile. So you want to make sure you have a nice photograph, and you want it to be a mid shot. So you want to show, you don't want to be the amputated head, right, where you show just from the neck up, right? And you don't want to show much more of your body than from the shoulders. And the reason for that is that some of the photographs are as small as 30 pixels by 30 pixels, right? And you don't want your profile picture to be so small that they can't recognize who you are, right? If you meet somebody at a networking event or at a conference or whatever, you want them to be able to, when they find your profile, immediately say, yes, that's the person that I met. Right? So you need to make sure that that shot is really nice and clear, okay? And for LinkedIn in particular, which is more professional, you want to make sure that it probably needs to be a more professional photograph. So you want to wear it for guys, you want to probably wear a collared shirt, maybe a jacket. Don't necessarily need the tie, but you should have something like that. For ladies, a nice blouse, like just not the same kind of yeah, not the same kind of casual photographs that may be more acceptable on Facebook, for instance, as your profile pictures.